Good afternoon. It is June 10th, 2024. You're listening to a little column A, little column B, hosted by Will Limonos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What's going on, Will? I am doing fantastic today. The Celtics, they're up 2-0 in the NBA Finals. We're halfway there in the finals. The team looks really good. We didn't really know what we were going to get, if we were even going to get Porzingis. I was on the side saying, I don't think that he's even going to show up. It seems like they're hiding it. It seems like, nope, that was not the case, that they've just been extra resting him, and he is absolutely ready to go. And you know what? Kristaps Porzingis, still pretty good at basketball.
Not only good at basketball, but a terrible matchup for Dallas. I want to kind of break him down by what I was most impressed with in each of the first two games. I mean, Porzingis just showing up and looking like his old self was an excellent surprise. But him coming off the bench, I thought, was almost like a real Jedi mind trick because he's coming in off the bench to face their bench. Like, their rotation is just normal, and that's when we're at full strength, and I'm not sure what Dallas is supposed to do. I mean, what do they do? Supposed to start worse players? Like, that's not how that works. It's just, I don't know what they're going to do in terms of an adjustment to fix that. But, yeah, as long as he's out there, it seems like they don't really have an answer for him. I hope he plays the next game. I know he went limping off at the end of this one, but based on just what we were leaving from last week going into the series to now seeing two games of him, have your nerves calmed a little bit? Are you all right now? Do you believe it?
Wildly exceeded expectations. All of the things that we said, saying, even if we can just get 15 minutes out of him, and that's minutes that we don't have to play Al as much, and we for sure don't have to play Luke or any of those other bench guys. We could just play like our real, our best guys. And then he comes in that first game and he just goes off at both ends as well. It wasn't, all right, yeah, he's making a bunch of shots on offense, but you could just tell he can't move. He's all stiff on defense. I mean, he's making shots. He's blocking guys at the rim at the other end. He just had that first half, just a huge explosion. He looked like he was having fun. There wasn't so much in the second half, but just what he did in that first half, super exceeded any of like my wildest expectations.
Well, we'll see if he plays in the next game. We'll get a little bit more to that. But starting with what I was most impressed with in both these games was Boston's defense. Somewhat low-scoring games, both games. Boston winning 105-98 last night, and then game one, 107-89. Dallas not exactly breaking the 100-point mark, and I think I've said it before, if you're not going to score 100 points in a playoff game, you're in jeopardy and have every right to lose that game. If you're not just hitting that margin, you're just not going to beat a good team. All that being said, I think Boston has done everything possible to make their lives miserable. There isn't anything comfortable on the Dallas offense. There isn't any pressure that they have a relief on. They're not getting any corner threes. We're pressuring them full court, half court, doubling, surprising. The counter lineup of bringing Porzingis off the bench, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, just between Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and Porzingis, what has been your favorite block of the series on Boston's end? Because there's been some great ones. Which one stands out for you?
The back-to-back Jaylen ones in game one, those were really cool. I don't know if that was part of the same sequence, but when Kyrie went in and Jaylen just absolutely lined him up and blocked it, and it looked like when a high school or college kid goes and plays against like a middle schooler, where it was just absolutely had him lined up, full block, not even close to a foul. I don't know. I really like that Porzingis block. Guy tried to put him on a poster, and he just said absolutely not, because it was, I don't know if he's going to be able to run or do anything, and now he's jumping up in the air and doing that. There's so much. And then you have the I think they ended up giving it to Derek White, but the one in transition last night at the end of the game where Dallas got like sneaky close. We were up 14 with, I don't know, just under 3 to go, and seemed like, all right, yeah, we're good. And then all of a sudden, PJ Washington's driving down and it's about to make it a one-score game, and then just Derek White just does Derek White things and absolutely erases it. But yeah, there have been a lot of blocks.
What do you think's been our most effective thing on defense? Is it just the rotation, the switching?
It's two things for sure, and I mean, I'm still trying to listen to the pods to get smarter and to know exactly what the strategy part of it to make this happen is. But the Mavericks are taking few to zero corner threes, and they're actually in game one they got zero lobs. Yesterday they got at least one. I think maybe they had two. But that's kind of Dallas's bread and butter, where we definitely doubled Luka more yesterday, but in game one he only had one assist, and then on top of it, he only had, I think it was 7 assist opportunities. So that means he passed it and 6 times the guy missed. But that really wasn't that many opportunities because we played him so straight up. We really didn't do too much like double teaming, and I think that really helped because when you double, it opens it up, and he, similar to Jokic, is he still sees the floor. Like, you think he's looking into the crowd, and really he's got eyes in the back of his head, and he finds guys. He had one pass where he was up in the air, and I think it was Gafford was driving behind, and he just dumped it off to him, just like a really really nice pass. But I think it's that forcing, and I'm sure once we go to their place, the role players are going to play a little better. Ours are going to probably play a little bit worse. But making sure PJ and Derek Jones Jr., they were killing those teams with those corner threes, and we're saying, to Derek Jones Jr. specifically, hey, go ahead. You're above the break. Yeah, you're wide open. Go for it. See what happens. And I don't know. We'll see if it translates once they're back in Dallas. But I think getting them not in their comfort zone. Luka's getting his points. He is the only one. No one else out there, I think, is comfortable. And I really don't think Luka's that comfortable because every game he gets another injury. And I mean, on flipping it over, he couldn't stay in front of anybody. Every time it was Tatum could get past him and then just do whatever he wanted. And, or if Brown, whoever wanted to, got Luka in front of him, just going right past him. And I was surprised, earlier in the day yesterday, it came out that he was questionable. It's like, well, this is kind of late in the day to be moving a guy to questionable, especially in a finals game. This is what's always the talk of, it's in January. Well, if it was the playoffs, it was a finals game I'd be playing. So he's really got to be banged up.
He has still been very good. He looks injured. His knee has never looked the same. And yet he's still been incredibly effective, so I don't know whether to hold certain injuries against him or not. I know he definitely took a good cut on the hand yesterday, and it's not even that was holding back his ability. I think it was more of just slowing it down. They had to bring him out a couple times to control the bleeding on it. Just a cut, just an annoying little scratch that was like, all right, well, Luka's out for whatever little bit right now. He's still doing
got 42 minutes.
Yeah, he's still playing. He's still doing everything. I mean, he almost has a quadruple-double yesterday with the 8 turnovers, if you want to throw those in. He had 8 of the team's 15 turnovers.
He had some really bad live ball turnovers.
The lob that Derek White just caught like it was a fly ball. It was like, what is this? Like, is someone about to come out of nowhere and tackle me? It felt like a trap. But there was a couple suspect turnovers that I don't think you can always count on. That being said, the things that I think won't repeat in the next couple of games, Dallas took a bunch of tough shots, and even if those corner threes were somehow available, I don't even know if they would have made them. Boston just needs to make shots. We missed a ton of shots yesterday. I mean, we are so ice cold, but if you look at the shots that we
10
took...
10 for 39 from 3.
And the shots that they took... They're completely different. They're not even
the same shots.
They're not even remotely close to the same. So when you say what is going to change in the next coming games, unless Dallas is somehow going to take away all of these shots Boston's going to make, and unless Boston is going to literally continue to miss all of these open shots, which just seems impossible. We have too many guys. We will find the lineup. One of the guys will be hot. I know Tatum, we're going to get to it, hasn't been shooting very well, but I think he's been controlling the game and rebounding. He's leading our team in rebounding, and we're winning. Like we're up 2-0. Everyone's looking at Tatum like, hey, we need you to get 30 points. It's like, well, if he did and we lost, what are we going to say then? We give him the crown, but we lost? Like, we won. It's working what we're doing. I don't think we need to ask anything from anyone else. We just need to continue to play the way we're playing. And I hate that the coaching in the post game has turned into Jason Kidd's already gotten desperate. I mean, you sent me the post game interview of him just blatantly saying, "I think Jaylen Brown is their best player."
No, he didn't say I think. And this was in the practice in between. This was at that media session. He said Jaylen Brown is their best player.
They're so desperate to try to break this up, and I don't want to let it happen. And I think everybody, from a public standpoint that I've seen, has handled it very well. But it just seems like a desperate move at this point where Jason Kidd's smart enough to know
That's
whether
after
or not.
one game.
Yeah, why are we getting so desperate after one game unless you know something we don't know and that they might be in some really big trouble? I can't remember another coach being that desperate, or at least thinking, I'm going to throw this out there now after one game and hope that this works because I don't know what else to throw out there. And really looking forward into Game 3, I mean, what are the adjustments they can do? Because I still thought Boston did a bunch of good things offensively. We took a bunch of threes. We got open looks. I liked having Porzingis on the mismatches on the high post. I thought those were good bailouts. I liked having Drew in the dunker spot. I thought that was shocking and just finding crafty ways to get to the layup or find someone else open. Drew just being the ultimate complimentary player in every aspect of the way. I mean, whether it was a 2-on-1 and they give him a terrible pass and he somehow still catches it and finishes the layup, or somebody leaves their feet and he cuts and finds it open. Like, he is the ultimate complimentary guy. He's just, I don't know if he's going to get enough credit for all that, but I think between the last two games, he being that complimentary guy has made everyone's life so much easier to the point where they don't need to have great games. We just need to have games like we did yesterday. And as long as we hold the other team to this, we're good.
We got the full team. So Luka, he's getting his 30 points. We're making him really work for it. Even when he's shooting efficiently, I mean, he's just got to do that. He makes a play. Just go, man, that's Luka. No one else is doing that. And he is going to do that, but he's got to work. And then we're getting him into the switches. And both fourth quarters, he didn't really have much of an impact. And there was a real chance yesterday. There was a real chance that he could have, turned the Luka mode on. But I think partially the injuries and partially he's getting put in every action. And there's a fatigue factor. And I think that's impacting him. And the rest of the team, they're not comfortable. But the Celtics, we haven't had anybody score 30 points. Jaylen in game one had a high of, I think it was 22. And then last game is Drew with 26. No one's cracked 30. Just everyone's just putting in it. It's a very balanced lineup.
Do you think Dallas even has the right guys to pressure Boston the way I think they need to be pressured? Because I feel like you put one pressure on Tatum, and it certainly tricked him a time or two. All right, he hasn't been playing perfect. He's still figuring it all out, but he's been able to either get to the rim or find someone open, whether it was Drew on the dunker spot or Derek White in the corner or something on an attack. He got a little reckless with the dunk attempts, just praying for fouls yesterday, but he's still getting to the rim, and I don't know.
He's getting to the hoop.
I don't know what Dallas could do to change that.
And I can't be mad about him driving in, and one was wild. One of them was, I think, just like more reckless. It was like, it really like front rimmed it. But yeah, he can get right past Luka, and then if they stay home, he can get right to the hoop, and otherwise he's going to find open guys. And if we just weren't as ice cold as we were, and in the first quarter, we didn't take a three for like a long time, not even make one. We just didn't even take it. And I got to imagine that was Dallas's plan. But what I liked about it is in the past, and not even like in years past, like earlier these playoffs, when our threes weren't hitting, then like we just don't really play as good a defense, and then we just kind of hope that, all right, maybe we could just double down on the threes. We did not do that. We still locked in on defense, knew what our roles were, and then Tatum continued to drive and continued to kick out. So we still got the threes, but it was not just passing it around and taking a contested three. It was working in the middle and forcing these guys to move their feet.
I thought we played at a way faster pace than Dallas. Again, Dallas not coming real close to scoring 100 points. They have to either get more stops and turn it into offense or move faster on offense. I mean, outside of Luka having some crazy Luka magic, it was just Gafford versus Tatum was their only offensive advantage. Which, if Gafford's going to post up Tatum and we are somehow going to worry that Gafford is going to outscore the Celtics offense, even if they go 2 for 30 from three, we have bigger problems. If anything, that's an advantage for us. Let them. They're just throwing off their offense entirely. Gafford has the ball 2 feet away from the rim. Luka and Kyrie are nowhere near to this. This goes either one of two ways. It's a foul, a miss, or it's only 2 points. It's just such a win for Boston, and I don't know what Dallas is going to be able to counter with. Their advantages are really limited if Kyrie isn't going to play any better.
I think he's going to play better at home.
Well, even if he does, I feel like we've also eliminated everyone else. Where Kleba, we're begging him to shoot. I assume his shoulder is just nowhere near 100%, and he's just not ready to shoot, or maybe not in shape to shoot. But I know he's out there, and I think he still played some decent defense. But offensively, we've already figured out that he doesn't want to shoot anymore. And it's weird. There's times where the ball will swing to him, and I just, knowing the player that he is, I'm like, oh, that's going up, and it's just not going up. He's leaning for a screen handoff or something else, and I don't know what other big they can put out there if Lively is going to be constantly in foul trouble, also not a 3-point shooter. Gafford's going to be in there, which
not
is
a shooter at all.
Also not a shooter at all. And so what other options is Dallas going to go? Are they going to end up going incredibly small, and then are we just going to beat them at that game?
They just have to rely on Luka and Kyrie. I think we knew that going into it. I've been surprised at how much Lively has struggled against our bigs just after the bigs that he's already dealt with. Where in game one, he got 5 fouls in 1 quarter. I mean, that's what I would have expected coming into the playoffs for a rookie in his first time, and I think he could have been called for more. I think that the refs have been letting this be a little bit of a rougher game, and it's the finals, so I get it, but it's like Lively has just got like 2 hands on Porzingis as Porzingis is going to like set a pick, just like pushing him, and then when Porzingis gets the ball, he's just like all the way up chest to chest, and in game 1, Porzingis just took advantage of it, where he's like, well, I'm 7 feet, but I have some guard skills. I don't know if you remember, but I'm the original unicorn, and just dribbled around him right in, and dunked it. So I just don't know if there's things they could do with Lively, or Lively, being more of a role player where you're at home and just kind of can just settle down a little bit.
I thought game 1, Lively must have just been told, hey, we don't know what Porzingis' health is at, so just go at him. Let's just see what he's got. And I thought that was a good strategy. It just completely backfired when Porzingis ended up being like way healthier than I think any of us had ever imagined. And then he just took the fouls, made the jumpers, and made that look like, all right, that's not going to work against us.
He made like every jumper. Every time they switched the small guy on him and he was at that foul line elbow, it was automatic. It was automatic, and the guys were trying to get up as close as they could to him, but when they reach up, they come up to like his chest. Like there was no chance of them altering the shot.
All that being said, Derek Lively is the youngest player to ever play in an NBA Finals. I think he's doing all right. He's having a hell of a year. He's still an effective player.
I'm just surprised that this didn't impact earlier in the playoffs. So it's probably more of a testament to him, and it's just going against just those other bigs. Just would have thought those would have been more difficult for him than our bigs. But maybe it's just more of the defense that we're playing, where we're kind of not selling out exactly, but there's a real focus on Lively is not going to get just multiple alley-oop rim run attempts. Like we're taking that part away. No, not getting that easy basket.
Well, based on the player substitutions, he's also going against Porzingis, which is like Celtics at full throttle, and it's not what he's normally coming in against. If anything, it's the starters are getting
like
a little bit more run down.
How many 7-footers is he coming up against?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a Porzingis coming off the bench anywhere. I mean, this is Naz Reid coming off the bench. This is a massive impact that you're just immediately have to worry about. There aren't a lot of bench players alone, let alone big guys, that are even worthy of studying, that aren't even watching film on it. This is crazy that a unicorn is coming off the bench, and it's ultimately what Boston has built is a team where somebody was coming off that bench that you got to worry about. But I do think it has made the Al Horford matchup just so much better, where he can go at Gafford, he can hang with Gafford, and he can also stretch Gafford out. And then the second he comes out, Porzingis and Lively is like, all right, well, pick your poison. I mean, none of these, like I said, what are you supposed to start Lively? Do you think you're supposed to start your worst lineup now if you're Dallas, like, just to counter it, so you have Gafford going against
I think
Porzingis?
I just don't think that's going to work, because even if they were to do that, then if we wanted to, then we could just sub Porzingis in sooner if we wanted to. And I still think like Al is just a wily veteran, so that's still in our favor.
All right. Anything else for game 1 and 2? You were there.
I was in the building.
You were there yesterday.
I was in the building yesterday. They did the same thing in game 1, which I didn't really realize. It's interesting when you're at the game. There's certain things that you see or that are part of the in-arena experience, but then also stuff that you miss. So one of the things in arena is just like in game 1. The actually before the teams came out. So this is probably like a half an hour before the game. They put up on the Jumbotron. So this is when the place is really getting full. People are in the seats early. They want to be ready to go. They put up the Kyrie quote that he said after game 1 saying, the crowd really wasn't that loud. I thought that they were going to be like more intense. And so they're just showing Kyrie's face with that quote. The players aren't even on the floor yet, and the crowd's already booing. I mean, you see it on like the Celtics pregame. We're chanting "Let's go Celtics" coming up the escalator, but then the teams actually do come out. All right, cool. Teams are coming out. Big cheer. I didn't realize that Porzingis hadn't come out yet, and then they do like a whole what I imagined like when Willis Reed was coming out, and it was like a good 6 minutes later. They show him on the Jumbotron in the tunnel, like jumping up, getting ready, and then him starting to run out. And man, the place just, especially after game 1, it just was going nuts. And so it was a fun game. We went down a little bit at the beginning, and then we never went on like a really big run. We went on these like little mini runs, and we grinded it out that whole second half. And it was just like there was always this chance for this, I'm going to call it like 10 to 15% to get to like the absolute max of the crowd. And then we'd miss a 3, or they'd go to a timeout, and we kind of just missed out on that. But it was a lot of fun where they got the defense chant on the Jumbotron going, but Kyrie gets the ball. Everybody's booing him. There were multiple organic, because obviously the game crew isn't coming up with this. Kyrie sucks chants. Those got real loud. He definitely started to engage with the fans. You could see in the second half. So you mentioned at the beginning, you said you didn't think that home court had any impact. I think it had an impact on Kyrie. I could be wrong, but 28 total points in 2 games. And Luka went 4 for 8 from the free throw line yesterday. I'm just saying, not just me, but all of us in green. I don't think it was a non-zero percent that we were impacting them.
Like, I know we're podcasters and we want to attach ourselves to the teams, but we are not on the team. We certainly are rooting for it and in support of it, but I refuse to take away any of the credit from the defense that we put on Kyrie and Luka. It's not unusual for Luka to miss free throws. He's streaky with this. He will go 18 for 18 and then 3 for 12 the next game. It's happened. He's played in louder, worse environments than this. He loves the stage. If anything, he'll play better on the road than he will at home because he has somebody instigating him and just giving him that extra juice. I think Kyrie generally...
He got in it with I shouldn't say he got it. Like Wick was going at him, the Celtics owner.
I don't like it. We don't need it. You're not the guy. I don't understand why Wick feels like he's like, just let Luka play. Let him do his thing. All right. You don't need him. You don't need to give him more gas. Like, didn't anyone watch the Jordan documentary and see what these great players are like?
He's exhausted. He had no gas left.
He'll find it.
What do you go? What do you want? 1 for 4, 1 for 6 in the fourth quarter?
Why do we have to poke the bear? We're already winning. We got to poke it too?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. You're going to learn. You're going to learn today. You're going to figure this one out. All right. You don't think he's coming back? You think this is a wrap? Game 3. What do you think?
No, I think it's going to go. I'm sticking with my original, Celtics in 5.
Now, Celtics in 5 does.
But this was supposed to be the game right here. We struggled in game 2s before, and that's kind of silly. Like, how did game 2s go along? But this was a game we did not shoot well. We easily could have just started kicking ourselves and getting frustrated and saying, all right, fine, this just isn't our night. We're not shooting 40% from three. I hate this, but nope. We dug deep, and so I'm just really hoping we have one of these games, and so we have an even out game where we do shoot, 50%, and this is just game three is just absolute blowout on for us.
Does Boston need Porzingis to win this series going forward?
I don't think they need him, but I think it makes it a whole lot easier.
I think I stick with
that margin's way bigger.
If he can play 15, 20 minutes and we can wrap this thing up by, the fourth quarter start, I think that's all we need. We don't need 30-point games from anybody on the team. All right, I don't want to hear that. And if we end up getting it, it's going to be a miraculous thing, and we'll likely probably lose if any of the guys. Like, I'd rather have all of the guys at 15 to 20, like all of them, which is what's happening. So I
still have faith that Tatum could have a huge game and it not be detrimental to the team. Because looking at it, he took 22 shots. The next highest was between Derek White and Brown, taking 15. So if he just has one of his really good games, those points, those points just come even without him doing Kobe Bryant, no passing, taking 30-something shots. He had 12. He had 12 assists. He led the game in assists.
He had a real good control of the game. I think he figured out ways to get to the rim. I thought he got a little desperate. I wish when he attacked the rim, he'd focus a little bit more on trying to make the shot than just trying to get the foul. But, sometimes when you're an NBA star, you're almost rewarded for the opposites. I get it. I just wish that he tried to make some of those dunks rather than just trying to make it look like I'm getting crushed on this. I'm going to make it look like I'm getting hammered. I wish that's the only real complaint for it. But other than that, I like the way he's played. And if he makes the shots he takes, there's a chance he can have a 30-point game. It's similar to every of the other players. We missed so many shots. This has to be one of the most missed shots for a playoff win ever. Right? We missed everything and still won this game.
I didn't see that getting mentioned anywhere, and I just wonder if that's because we're in the the super good, everyone's good at shooting 3-pointers, so it was bad for us, but just in the NBA history, it wasn't all time, so I didn't see any sort of those sort of stats. It wasn't Dallas shot even worse, so it was just more we were open. We were open so much. It was wide open threes that we were missing.
Derek White could have a 30-point game. Just spotting up in the corner just one of these days. He's because he's getting all the same looks, and he's been a little on and off. He hit the ones we needed, and it's more than enough if he hits a little bit more than that. But I think he might be Dallas. If you got to leave somebody at some point, and I think Derek White is somebody whose confidence is swayed here and there. It hasn't of the recent, but it's at least a history where it's all right, we're already throwing long shots to try to break up Tatum and Jalen and make them all against each other. Maybe we leave Derek White, he'll just forget how to shoot. But he could easily have 30 points.
On the on the defensive side, and talking about Tatum, I was very surprised. Luka searched out Tatum repeatedly, and that just wasn't when it was the starters. I don't think we played Hauser and Pritchard at the same time. But even when Hauser or Pritchard was on the court, Luka still decided to get the switch to get Tatum on him. So I have to imagine, I've watched the team all year and multiple years, that Tatum is a better defender than Hauser and Pritchard. But I'm wondering if it was the same way we want to put Luka into different rotations. Was, hey, all right, we're not going to let Tatum be able to just kind of stand on the side and recharge his batteries. We're going to force him to have to play on both ends. But I found that very surprising, and it will be interesting to see if that is a strategy that they decide to continue to employ.
They take so long though to find the mismatch. I feel like Boston's finding it or just picking any one of them.
I think there's just more of them.
That's also probably true. There's just who?
I think there's more. There's more of them, and I'm still surprised. I think I brought this up last week. I just Peyton's not out there a ton of time. It was only 12 minutes, but I'm just surprised that when he's out there, that Luka didn't get the switch on him and just make it so, hey, if you're gonna have this guy out here, I am going to score on him every single time until you just take him out. And I would have thought it's somewhere along the playoffs, and maybe it's because some of those, in the Eastern side, some guys got hurt. But I just thought someone would be like, Peyton's fine on offense, but he's undersized on defense. And I'm just going to say, you can't play him. You're going to have to find somebody else and just force Missoula to make decisions. But I don't know. It's working. And I think I think Missoula has to take some credit for taking away these lobs and taking away these corner threes, because that seems like it's a on purpose strategy, and it's something that's working.
Do you think any of the starting lineups will change on either team? Is there a scenario where Porzingis starts, or do you think they'll make any adjustment for Dallas?
The only thing that I see happening is if Luka's really hurt and he doesn't play, so they have to take his starting spot. What's up with Tim Hardaway Jr.? Wasn't he like their third leading scorer during the season? And he just doesn't play anymore? What happened there?
There's a defensive liability with him and Kyrie that they just haven't found a way around. I also think that they think he's a little redundant to what Kyrie and Luka are already doing, and that it's like, well, if we're going to have a guy do this, why not have two of the best guys ever do it? And it's just a little bit too much of the same thing. I don't know if he's not as complimentary as, say, a guy like Drew or Derek White. He's more of just pull in case of emergency. And
aren't we at in case of emergency now? I'm just thinking you haven't even cracked 100 points, and here's a guy that for sure a defensive liability. But we just mentioned, hey, there's a lot of mismatches out there, and does this almost help? Of all right, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s out there. Okay, now we have to make all the switches so we can go one-on-one against him, and I have to imagine he could at least hold his own. I mean, I before this, I never really thought, oh, you know what, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s out there. Oh yeah, we definitely target him. Don't worry about anything else.
Well, Dante Exum and Josh Green did make their single threes yesterday. They only had I think one or two attempts each, but they did go in. And if you're those guys, I think you're just hoping for one, right? You can't count on Josh Green or Dante Exum or Jaden Hardy. Like, how many points are you counting on from this? I would play Hardaway Jr. more, but I'm also a Celtics fan, in which I think that justifies having Pritchard out there, because I think he's another guy that's closer in size, that it's not someone who's going to take you into the post or really be able to find the mismatch on this. And if he is, this is similar to Gafford trying to isolate on Tatum. It's like, well, sure, if you want to take the ball out of Doncic and Irving's hand and put it in a guy who's not a playmaker, whose only move is going to be to try and dunk on this guy, that's just not an offense. It's not an offense that's going to outscore another team in the NBA Finals. So I would do the Hardaway Jr. thing, but I think that's actually going to help us more than you think. Because at least with the other guys, there's size out there, and they can switch a little bit easier. We're going to hunt Hardaway Jr. And then if it's not him, it's Kyrie, and if it's not him, it's Doncic. And there's a weird scenario where their best offensive lineup is with no offense out there. It's probably Kleba, Green, Exum,
that's
Gafford.
I'm just wondering if they you can't just give up on defense, but you just go the Pacers route of, we're just going to try to play the numbers, and we're going to bomb away from three, and we're going to go faster, and we're just not going to care as much on defense. We're just going to put our best offensive lineup out there.
Look, if he's going to make him play faster, he should play more. But I think it takes a little bit more than just playing him to play faster. The whole team has to play faster. Yeah. So if he's the guy that's going to push it,
I'm just saying he's not playing it at all.
Hey, Jason Kidd, it's I actually think both coaches have been pretty smart with all of this. I just think the Porzingis off the bench is such a curveball where I don't it's a weird scenario. It's like this would work any other time too. It's like, well, why don't we bring one of our best players off the bench? It's like, well, why would we ever do that? We've never done it before. It just falls into this weird exception that I don't know what Dallas is supposed to do on a counter to it. You're just never going to bring a player like that off the bench. It's insane. But they are what they are, and at this point, both of these teams have been very successful to get to where they are. So I don't know if it's a little too soon of what we've seen, and I still anticipate a longer series. You got them in 5.
Yeah. What's your updated prediction now?
I'm staying with 7. I really don't see. I don't see a sweep, of which if they do sweep, the parade will be next week, and we'll reschedule the podcast. If they don't sweep, Game 5 will be next Monday if it goes 5. And then we'll probably do the podcast on Tuesday. I just think once
it's not Sunday.
I think it's Monday.
No, it just doesn't really matter.
I think once Dallas gets one, that it'll be this back and forth pressure of can Dallas close, or can they just get one and then in Boston shut them out in 5? I think we can win in 6. I do feel a little bit more confident in all this. I don't think we need Porzingis. I do think if Porzingis is healthy for the next 2 games, we have a decent shot at a sweep. But I can also see him missing one of these games, and it's just like that's a different team, and then we regroup and get back on track and hopefully wrap this up in 5-6. But I still think we're going 7. I think Luka, unless he doesn't
got
play,
something up his sleeve.
Unless he doesn't play, and Kyrie too. Like we can't do anything differently, but there will be times where it's like we played excellent defense and these guys just made shots. They did that to a whole bunch of other teams. I think a lot of the bench has gotten credit for how they've hurt other teams, but at the end of the day, it's Luka and Kyrie just cooking the other team, and I think they could still do that. And
I think we just gotta remember, and it was even when you're watching it, it's like if Kyrie does all of his dribble moves, makes the guy, lean the wrong way, then gets him going the other way, does the spin move, and then, falls back and shoots a fadeaway. It's still only 2 points. It feels more, but it's only 2. So I think that it's like it's in our favor of just because they worked really hard for it and they did some crazy moves. It's still the same amount as if, I think it was like one of the first plays of the game. The Dallas was just asleep, and Drew was just under the hoop, and we just tossed it to him for a layup. That's way easier. Let's just keep doing that.
The workload expectation is just it's a really high ask of what you're doing. I mean, this is like going with 2 different businesses. If one has excellent efficiency and teamwork, and that no one person has to work super hard, it all just works in a system. And the other one is like 2 guys with the Superman capes on just trying to do more than they're capable of. And they are capable of it, but it is not the same efficiency. It's not going to come easy. It's constantly a challenge. There isn't like, hey, let's go to the easy play where we dribble for 24 seconds and hit a fadeaway. Like that's so hard. It's the hardest way to score. And even though they're good at it, there's something with the effortlessness part of Boston that I don't see them overcoming. But I do think they can still cook some games.
How mad would you be today if you were a Bucks fan based on how the Dame Lillard situation turned out and now how it's looking with Drew in Boston, who is going to be in the same conference as your team for the foreseeable future?
It's hard to look at the scenario without Giannis playing. I mean, if Giannis plays, I think we could feel a little bit better and you could sleep a little bit better at night. But to have back-to-back first-round matchups where Giannis doesn't play in the first round. I know he played last year, but I'm not even counting. He's injured. He's playing on whatever.
He got hurt. Yeah. So it definitely impacted it. I just meant more like throughout the season. I don't think Dame was at the level. I don't think the mix of Giannis and Dame. I don't think it meshed as well as I think we were all thinking at the beginning of the season. And I don't know, maybe a whole offseason together where both those trades happened kind of midsummer. Where now you have the full offseason, you know what to expect. Maybe that's something that, the 2 + 2, equals 6. Now that they've got some time to gel.
I think they might have undervalued the complementary stuff I mentioned earlier about Drew, and that nobody's really filled that role. While they might have addressed some late game issues, and if you were to have a guy that wasn't that good defensively, you would think Giannis and Brook Lopez are kind of the best guys you could put behind him in terms of defensive presence of just backup of that. So I still think that there's a theory where the trade is successful and it does work out. We just didn't see it. I mean, these guys also, they go through 2 different coaches. I mean, when is the last scenario where a coach walked in mid-season and was like, I can fix this? And we were like, oh, we expect you to fix it. And he's like, well, this is really hard. And it's like, oh, well, maybe if you had an entire offseason to work on this, you'd have a plan. Instead, you're just walking in and you're literally introducing your name to guys. And I don't think that's like there's not a success story where that works.
Did you see that the Bucks signed Darvin Ham, Lakers' old coach, as he's going to be their lead assistant?
There's plenty of former Laker coaches I think are still very qualified. It's good for him. I'm not sure that's the ship I'd be jumping on right now, but it is one that could certainly have some success if everyone's able to get out there. I mean, do you think the Milwaukee thing is a wrap now? Like, even if they come back next year, there's not a scenario where you're threatened by them at all?
No. No. Anytime you have Giannis, and I don't think Dame is just absolutely cooked or anything like that. I'm just thinking, and part of it is because you had two disappointing flameouts, strictly because one of your guys got injured, and it's so frustrating because there's nothing you can do about it. It's like a lost year. But just wondering, is you're a fan of the team Drew used to be on, and now you're seeing him play really well for a conference rival, and just knowing, hey, if we didn't make any of these moves, like would things have been different? I mean, probably not, because Giannis probably still gets hurt. But
Well, one
just
update to
interested.
that is I think last year they said if Giannis is out, which he plays so hard, the percentages, the chances of him getting injured based on just the physicality, the way he plays, are pretty high. So last year I think they were like, wow, how do we decrease that odds of him getting hurt? And it's like I don't know if you can really turn off that off switch. So they're like, all right, well if he's going to get hurt all the time, we need to have another guy that can kind of run the show himself. And Drew just isn't that guy. I think he tried to do it last
Yeah,
year, and I think you
true. Where
immediately noticed that.
he fits in perfectly with us. Where we're never going to be on purpose being like, "Hey, Drew, you have to do all of this." I mean, he was the high scorer, but I think I saw something like none of it was ISO. Like none of it was pick and roll where he was like the main ball handler. It was all him in the dunker spot, him in the flow of the offense on fast breaks, where it was just more of it just worked out that way. Not all right. Drew has the right matchup. We're just gonna go to him. He just does all the like in between things that we need, like between him and Derek White.
I think what most accurately answers your question on whether or not Milwaukee should feel disappointed is I think it proved this year that maybe you were all right with Drew because even Damian Lillard this year wasn't able to do it, and this was supposed to be the redirection of the advantage of him. And it's kind of like, well, maybe you just had too high of an expectation for a team to try and win that doesn't have their best player. Like, what team is that? Like, outside of Boston, maybe, of which you can handpick which one you want to nominate as the best player, and yeah, maybe they're still a pretty good team. But if you take Jokic out of Denver, they're not getting out of the first round. You take Kawhi out of the Clippers, they're not getting anywhere. You take the best player out of any of these teams, they're not getting anywhere. So for Milwaukee to kind of overthink the scenario of like we have to have another guy, and Dame is a lonely guy out in Portland where he was the guy and kind of had 1 year of success and really not a whole lot else. They just assumed that that would be a workload he could handle, and it's hard. It shouldn't be easy, but you shouldn't win without your best player. So I don't think there's a whole lot of regret to it. I think there's a little
Okay,
what if scenario.
I was just curious.
But they would have lost this year with Drew too. Like, do you think if they kept Drew right now
No,
and Giannis is out, are they
no,
anywhere else? No, they're not. So like
no.
without Drew, whether the trade was good or bad, if Giannis doesn't play, they're not going anywhere.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Speaking of not going anywhere, you got anything else for NBA? I'm going to go to coaching here.
Yep, I'm good.
Not ever leaving. Dan Hurley rejects the offer from the Lakers. He's choosing to stay and try and three-peat with the UConn Huskies. This is a story that just recently broke last week, kind of midweek after all of the J.J. Redick news, and there's a little Shams versus Woes sort of news reporting drama there. But is this not just the normal pattern of the Lakers always try to get the big fish and they never actually end up with it? I mean, how many stories have we heard about Coach K, John Calipari, name Coach X that just won blank, and it's always Lakers are constantly looking for someone else. What I haven't heard before is apparently the offer was moderately insulting and that was also a limitation. Now, I'm imagining that's being a little overemphasized that they were only willing to offer this. Perhaps it is just a better market value, but I think you could set your own market, and if the advantage was we're going to throw more money at this guy than anyone could ever imagine, I think they failed. Is that not the reality that I'm seeing? I mean, what do you think of this?
So this news came out on Thursday. If you remember correctly, that was the same day as game one. So this is during the day. And so it's just funny to me that, all right, it's game one. All right, we're all focused on actual basketball. And then it's like, okay, all right, Lakers, I get it. You haven't got attention in 2 months because you got knocked out of the playoffs a while ago. But all right, yeah, let's talk about you. All right. And then for it to be Dan Hurley of UConn, I was ecstatic. I was like, this is going to be awesome. UConn is going to fall apart without this coach because all the other players are going to transfer, and they're going to transfer in June. So for them, they're going to put a skeleton crew together. Uh, so they're going to be terrible. This is awesome. And Dan Hurley is an absolute maniac. He is a college basketball coach. He is not an NBA coach. It's not going to work. He'd have to completely change his whole personality. There were multiple videos of him threatening to fight fans at college games. They're college kids probably, but you can't do that in the NBA. You probably shouldn't even be doing it in college, but you can get away with stuff, especially when you're a two-time champion. And so it's like, this is going to be awesome. He's going to go there. He's going to clash with LeBron, and I don't even know if he was going to make it through the year. So he was going to sink UConn, and he was going to sink the Lakers, the two teams I probably hate the most in basketball. I was like, this is going to be awesome. But then it kind of went along, and then I kind of thought it through, and it was I wish we had a pod to discuss it, because I would have said this, but now it sounds like, oh yeah, well of course you're going to say that, like now you know the results. But it's just like, you know what, this is just prime leverage opportunity of, it has to feel real, so the school believes it's real, so when he returns, either he's an extension's coming right around the corner, or in the not too distant future, he can say, hey, the Lakers were offering me this, so this is my market value, so this is what I expect. And then if he does leave, it's not he left UConn, it's, hey, UConn wouldn't pay him what was fair. So I think he's setting himself up correctly. But I think you're right. This is not unusual. The top coaches in college, every once in a while, they kind of dip their foot into that NBA just to kind of see. And I think most of the time it's just a pure leverage play to make sure that they're getting the most money from their school.
So now what? Now if you're JJ Redick, which I think we've already said, this isn't the sexiest job basketball wise. You're not getting a roster that's enjoyable.
It's been floated out there that they like JJ, or that JJ's going to be it, but it's one of those, if it feels like if it was going to be JJ, the news comes out and then it's ratified. It's like, this has happened, but it's like, this has been kind of going on for 2 weeks. Did not expect Dan Hurley to come out of nowhere, and for Woj to mention how this is this has been their person from the start, and like you said, to make it like a whole scoops game head to head, to make that just a whole other kind of angle to this. But yeah, now you're kind of back to square one of, you've had 1 to 2 people say no to you. And then even with the Hurley stuff, Woj just throwing in there about how, well, the Lakers are thinking like they might draft Bronny, and then if you get Hurley, he's a college coach, so he'll be really help out with his development. It's like, wait a minute, I get the whole LeBron thing. He's like a whole giant sun with the gravity that does different things than other players, but you are gonna hire a coach for your team with one of the main things being how you're going to develop this guy you're going to draft in the second round, who's really an undrafted guy. And then, I can't remember, I wish I could remember who it was on X, said something like, why doesn't Bronny just go back to school and transfer to UConn and then play for
it'll cost the Lakers UConn a hell of a lot less,
and then go later on, if that works. So yeah, there were just some weird things happening there, but yeah. So now they're on to the next one, and you kind of need a name. I don't think you can go like the route the Bucks went, where you get someone that has been an assistant, has paid its dues. It's like, you are gonna have to deal with LeBron, an older LeBron, on a team that, I mean, we saw this year, LeBron and AD were healthy, and I don't think they can really make many moves. That I think is just gonna be frustrating. And you have to have somebody with star power, I think, to be at, someone that LeBron respects. And I just don't think that list is very long.
Do you think it should be concerning that Bronny James is somehow going to have an easier time getting on the NBA Lakers roster and a harder time transferring to the UConn Huskies? Like he couldn't do it. Could he do it if he wanted to? I don't think so. I think he would have gone to any of these other schools. I mean, he ended up at USC for a reason. It's closer to LA, but the scenario you just mentioned, it's almost obvious. It's like, well, he couldn't just transfer to the best team in the country in college, and yet somehow he's going to be qualified enough to make an NBA team. Like that shouldn't make sense.
It's all in the name. And I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. If he was going to transfer And you're not gonna be able to transfer to UConn. You're not gonna be able to transfer to a big school, but maybe go to a smaller school. We got to remember he's coming off of a cardiac arrest situation where a lot of times that means you're just done with basketball. So I'm glad to see he's still playing. I don't know how much of it was like, hey, he's still kind of recovering, trying to figure that part out of go somewhere. Yeah, you're still going to be kind of like the main story, but if you're at a smaller school, you're kind of hidden a little bit more. But I just don't see how this is going to work. Him getting drafted by the Lakers, it'll be a cool moment, but then he's going to be on the G League, and then in like a year or two, like I just don't see how this has like a good ending.
I also don't like the idea of hiring a coach based on the development of someone who.
That is so ridiculous.
So
wild. That makes no sense.
I imagine this is the number one issue Redick has with it, that he has to strongly disagree with that. I mean, he's a very fundamental, disciplined guy. That's a very non-fundamental and undisciplined move to make that sort of jump of judgment to drafting him where you're drafting him. I mean, it's also just a sabotage for the coach that's walking in, because it's like, well, what if the guy?
You're only going to have LeBron for what, 3 years?
Well, I don't even think it's that.
I don't even know if LeBron's gonna leave. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna retire. That could just be he leaves and goes and plays somewhere else. So like this coach is very short term.
I just think coaching is really hard, and the second you start making compromised judgments for exceptions like this, the harder it gets. And it's already hard. You look at the teams they're going to have to go against, even if these scenarios don't happen or these problems don't arise. Just normal stuff from last year. I'd say it's a completely healthy roster. Say both these guys play AL65 games, they're still in the play-in game. There is an uphill battle here, and you're making compromised decisions to make people happy, to not win games. I just, who wants this job? God bless them, whoever does, because if I'm Redick, I think this is what we're going back and forth about at this point, and it's, I respect LeBron, I do all of this, but there's a basketball instinct within me that just won't allow myself to do this. It's not fair. It's not right, and it doesn't make sense.
I think JJ too just has a awesome counter where if like the Lakers offer him and then he's able to go and ask for a bunch more money, because I mean he's announcing he's on the A team for ABC and ESPN. He's like only been doing this for a few years, and he's got multiple podcasts going on right now. So it's not like he's got nothing going on, or like, oh no, I really need to be coaching. I think he can really pick his spots and probably realizes this might not be the best jump into NBA coaching.
Okay, it might be like doing press for certain Hollywood stars at this point, where the attention of it doesn't like. But how does that improve his resume in any way? Yeah, I'm going to go out and do press conferences every day. I'm going to get killed by LeBron and all these media and LA media. I don't have that now.
It's going to be all cool, like they're buddies. They played against each other. But if they have the same season they had this year, midway through, all of a sudden there's like the video of LeBron walking off the court, and like JJ's got his hand out for a high five, and LeBron just like walks right past him, and it's like, oh, here comes the drama. All right. Ratchet it up. Here we go.
I don't even think of that. I think it's more of the midseason normal LeBron of like, well, we got to make some moves. I got my eyes on some other guys. I knew the whole time we could have done all this. And it's like, we could have done those moves if we didn't have to draft your damn son. Like, there's all these sort of things.
Believe it or not.
we could have had
believe
something else with
that.
There's
not a lot of not a lot of interest in Bronny.
So I think that's got to be the constant frustration, as well as LeBron wanting to play with his son is the first time he's ever wanted to play with a younger player. There isn't one player outside of Kyrie who was just good enough to not be the younger player and make those sort of mistakes. It'd be the first time ever. He's like, yeah, I want to play with a rookie. He doesn't do that. It doesn't work. All right, what do you want to do to get out of here real quick? Do you want to do WNBA, Caitlin Clark stuff? Do you want to do a little NFL update? Or do you want to do MLB cheating? Take your pick.
We'll do WNBA. We'll keep it in season. Talked about basketball, might as well just keep talking about basketball. Yeah, so news came out that the women's Olympic team had been announced, 12 players on it, and Caitlin Clark is not one of them. Did you hear her response when they were asking her questions about it?
No, I am not as I think we're more shocked just because this is the only name we know. But if you go look at the list of the names, I actually recognized all of them. So it's very similar to the Russillo All-Star thing, where it's like you can't just say this guy is an All-Star without taking somebody out. Like that's the whole that's the whole point is that it is this hard, and that it is only 12 players, and that if she wants to be a reserve or something, I guess that would maybe make everyone feel a little bit better. But who are you taking off is really what I'm asking. Like there's just not a name that jumps off that's like, oh well, Clark would definitely do this, and as well as
do you know who NBC would take off?
Yeah, all right, yeah. Well, anyone to get the eyeballs on all
any single one, because she puts people in the seats, and I get it. When you're creating the team, this is like the opposite conversation we're just having about LeBron and Bronny of having people on the team for non-basketball reasons, and this is not exactly the same. But yeah, if NBC was in charge, they'd say, I don't care which woman you take off, you put Caitlin Clark on there, and we're going to put this at prime time as best we can and make sure that this is going to be one of the highest viewed events. But no, they interviewed Caitlin about it, and I think she's just been awesome through all of this, where just on both sides, just people going just way too crazy. It's like, all right, this is sports. We don't need to get crazy about this every time. There's a certain level of crazy because we're all fanatics. But she said, hey, the U.S. women's team, it's the best 12 players in the world, and it's something to strive for. And you know what? I don't think she would ever admit it because she's a competitor and wants to keep playing. But going right from your college to the draft to the WNBA season, and that's going to go right into the Olympics, probably not the worst thing to go, hey, you know what? Little time off. You know what? This is pretty nice.
I'm confident she'll make every other team going forward. I think, if anything, this team is so dominant, historically dominant, that I'd almost rather Clark go play for another international team so that I'd have a reason to watch them, because USA Women's has just wiped the floor with everyone the past years. And they're acting like they need more firepower when they're already incredibly dominant.
They're a crazy favorite.
So, if anything, it's like, all right, so what do we want to do? We watch Caitlin Clark on the bench? Like, it's literally just for eyeballs. There isn't a reason they need her.
And that would be, I don't think would be fun for anyone to be interviewing her after a game, asking like, oh, how's it feel? Like, you didn't get to play, you had to ride the bench, and then asking the people that actually did play, oh, what do you think about Caitlin Clark having to play the bench? Like, did you watch the game? I had 18 points, against China. Like I had a pretty good day today, and just like not focused so much on the basketball part.
Like they're gonna win every game by 40. It's fine. If anything, like I said, they need better international players to make this event matter more. And we can't just be like, think of the men's league, the amount. Just Team Canada alone has like 10 NBA stars. So they need more expansion like that. I think they're getting it. I think Clark's the start of sort of more attention to here, and maybe it'll inspire some more international women to show up for their countries and actually challenge the dominance of women's USA ball. But I don't think that there's a real loss here. I mean, sure, there's eyeballs and all this, but they're still going to win by 100. All right, is that it?
I hope so.
We get out of here. You're gonna go play. You're gonna go play ball yourself.
Gonna go play some basketball. All basketball, all the time.
Yeah, you didn't talk about it enough. You just dreamed all day of what you're gonna say on the podcast, and then later you get to go play. I mean,
yeah. And yesterday I was watching it. Oh yeah, like you can't get too much basketball. It's looking like there's not gonna be too much left.
No, and I'm desperately missing it. My life is, just my podcast content alone. It's like, all right, so there's one game, and I normally listen to a couple podcasts, and sometimes they cover different teams a little bit more specially, and it really breaks it up, and I get a little bit more variety. But now, only two teams, one game every 3 days, and I just I don't need to listen to all these. It's just one of them is fine. Like I watch the game too. It's not like I need to catch up and figure out some details here. But one game every 3 days is certainly an end of an era. I'm definitely starting to think a little bit more about football. You keep an eye on anything like that?
Nope. All focused on the Celtics.
It's coming up.
There'll be plenty of time to worry about Drake May. I'm gonna stick in the good times for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, just stick in the good times and watch the Brady roast. It's the only good news that the Patriots are gonna have for the next 3 years.
Sticking with the Celtics.
All right. Well, depending on the outcome of the series of Boston and Dallas, we might be back next Tuesday, or we might be back Monday. With we'll probably be back Tuesday, regardless. To be honest with you, it's either Game 5 is going to be here or the parade's going to be here. So we'll likely see you next Tuesday. Please subscribe. Little column A, little column B. We're on Twitter. We're on X, which you can follow Zach on. His account is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
Subscribe. We'll be back.
Little column A, little column B.